Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Casual Word and Casual Word Radio. I'm your host, Langley, and today I am just very excited to be back on the air. We're trying out something new with the YouTube studio here, so we're doing live, and I should be able to share that at some point. Forgive me if we have any technical malfunctions, but we're working at trying to bring you guys the most platforms available and trying to make sure that we can reach all of our viewers and listeners to continue to encourage you guys and bring you uplifting content. And of course, we're going to have more and more guests on the show going forward. With that being said, I just want to express my gratitude for everybody who's been listening, everybody who's been tuning in, subscribing to the podcast, everyone who has subscribed to the Casual Word channel on YouTube. We had some difficulty trying to upload some of the videos from our guests in previous episodes. But if this works out, we will start using this platform in terms of going live to also video record the guests that we have on the show. I've got several guests that you guys have already heard, Liesel, Peyton, Kelly Cole. We've got several that are going to be coming back to do part twos and maybe part threes from our earlier interviews. So I'm very excited that they are excited to want to come back and join me again to be a part of this show and this broadcast. Really, guys, we won't take too much of your time today. I just want to, give you guys encouragement. We know that the pandemic has really taken a toll on everybody. We know that this has really been something that no one could have prepared for and no one could have foreseen coming. And with that, no one really knew how to address what was happening, and no one really understood what was necessary to make the transitions in our lives. A lot of things have really changed, and a lot of things are really not going to go back, even though we have some semblance of our lives back in terms of having social interaction. It is social interaction that is monitored, if you will. The social interaction is something that we are still using with caution, right? We've got the 6 foot social distancing, we've got the mask, we've got, all the hygiene procedures. And with due course, we understand that this is to help prevent the spread of the virus. We understand this is to help ensure the safety and well-being of our older population, as well as our young population, those who have compromised immune systems or immune systems just not strong enough to fight something of this magnitude. So, we understand that these things are all for our good and they are for the protection of our entire communities. But it does make it really difficult to have something of this nature. So, I had to take a break because, my guests were a little concerned about coming out and, being in close proximity. And I understand that completely. So after a couple of guests had to cancel, I thought maybe we'll just hold off until things smooth out a little bit and things get back to a sense of normalcy that will allow us to have people back on the show, have people in this building, and be able to be in a bit closer proximity without risk of exposure or overexposure. So I'm very thankful that things have been changing, things have been slowing down, things have stabilized. Now, we know there are still hot spots. We know that there are still cases rising in certain areas where people are maybe not adhering to some of the protocols and procedures that are being put in place by our governments. And, everybody has their own opinions of that. We're not going to get into that. That's not what this show is for. But, we have to make mention of that because that did affect everything that I do. It affected having type-ins. It affected being able to have workshops. It affected being able to encourage positive social interaction because there was no social interaction that was being condoned at the time. And again, I'm just very thankful that we are back here at CoWork, the Summit Building here in Bristol. And I can't thank them enough for allowing me to come back out and utilize their facility to record these podcasts. This is a wonderful setup they've got here. It is simple, but it is much more convenient for me to have this equipment available for me to use, as opposed to me trying to go out and buy everything, especially when, jobs were in short supply and so was money with that being said. So again, I want to thank them for still being supportive of this podcast, still being supportive of the show, still being supportive of me as an individual. It means a whole lot. So again, we want to shout them out and tell them that we appreciate everything they do to make the Casual Word Radio possible. Guys, I want to briefly always offer you a word of encouragement. I always want to offer you some enlightenment. And as you guys have seen on my latest live video We talked about pushing and persevering. We talked about overcoming. We talked about being more than conquerors, right? And that holds true today. It will hold true tomorrow. It will hold true in 10 years from now. Life is going to always throw us curveballs. Life is always going to have something that we don't expect happen. The enemy is very good at creating situations that operate outside of our control as individuals. And sometimes, in this case, you can see that it operates outside of our control as a nation and as a world. I mean, this thing took us by storm and really put us in a position that the entire world had never really seen before. And that shows you how vulnerable we can be as a species. And that shows you how vulnerable we can be as a society, and how vulnerable we can be as a community. So don't think for a second the enemy isn't trying to figure out every avenue and every little scheme and figure out how to go about keeping us at bay, keeping us at odds with each other, keeping us at odds with ourselves. We talked about before that the battle starts in the mind. And with that, you have to understand that the enemy is first going to try and disrupt your frame of thinking. He's going to first try to disrupt how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your fellow man, how you feel about your wife or your husband, how you feel about your children, how you feel about your job. Right? He's going to try and disrupt these things in order to create dissension within yourself. So now you're having to battle yourself. It's, the age-old adage of, the flesh man versus the spirit man. And when the spirit man is over the flesh man, then you've got a body that is moving on accord with what God has called you to be and in the path that God has called you. But when the flesh starts to take control of the spirit man, we're not going to say that you're going to start sinning per se. But what we're going to say is that you start to have thoughts that are different from the direction that God has called you. And you're going to start countering the things that God has for you. You're going to start questioning whether or not you're good enough. There'll be self-esteem issues. I struggle with that quite a bit is, am I good enough to do this show? Am I good enough to step into this role? Am I good enough to be a leader? Am I, prepared enough to go out and speak at a certain engagement? And that is beyond just simple stage fright. That's beyond just nerves and anxiety and butterflies. That's a deep self-esteem issue that you're trying to overcome, because the enemy is trying to make you feel like you can't be good enough to walk in the calling that God has put you in. And he will send people to doubt you. He will make situations happen that when you fail, you'll start to question. You'll start to not have belief in yourself. And so the battlefield first starts in the mind, and we have to overcome that in the immediate, right? We have to first start there and overcome how do we get past ourselves so that we can move forward into dealing with others. And the enemy, as we have seen with this pandemic, really utilized our ability to work together to a detriment, if you will. What he's done is that he forced us into a position where we couldn't come together, right? The Bible talks about not forsaking the fellowship and the gathering of the brethren. So we know that there is strength in coming together. We know that there is strength and power in being on one accord and being together physically, right? And being in fellowship, that encouragement, that power, all that comes from like minds moving in the same direction. So the enemy was able to keep us for a time from actually being together and moving in concert, right? And so that allowed all of these small issues to start rearing their heads inside your own circle, your family, inside your mind. And so he was very good and very tactful at keeping us away from each other with this. And so, but we see that, in the end, we did see that people came together and supported one another. We did see that, institutions came together and helped. And we did see that even our government initialized some things that were able to help keep people afloat, keep people moving forward, and keep people employed. So this kind of back around and what the enemy used for our destruction, God used for our good. We just have to continue to move in that direction, right? We have to continue to be the people in the midst of the pandemic that were there for everybody that we could be and was helping everyone that we could be. We have to continue to be those people, even though life returns to some semblance of normalcy. And that's the thing that we have to take away is now that we're starting to come back together, now that we're able to limitedly move together and come together and socialize, let us not have short-term memory loss and forget where we just were. And let us not turn back into the people that we were prior to being forced to become different. Because that's how God works, is he's going to put you in a position or allow a situation rather to happen that's going to force change, right? We talk about change being uncomfortable, right? If it wasn't uncomfortable, it would just be tomorrow. So you have to recognize that in the midst of this discomfort, the change that has happened within you, you've become to see what is most important. We've changed the way that we operate in terms of our business models. We've changed the way that we interact with each other. We've changed the way that we think about life and society. And so let us make those lessons stick so that we can continue to move forward as a unit. And even if we all have a different belief system, we can all agree that without working together, we will surely perish. So I just wanted to touch on that and remember that, even in myself and things that I've experienced, all the change and the transition that's happened, and it was uncomfortable. And a lot of things that happened, with the job loss and the loss of family members to the virus and, things that happened throughout the course of these last few months was uncomfortable, but it has, again, altered my trajectory, just like things that happened last year and the things that I went through in my personal life last year altered my trajectory. So guys, this is not all bad. We talked about it on my live feed. Like, this is still a year of clarity if you have the willingness to look at all the positives that's happened. Jobs have changed. You had new opportunities. Some of you have taken into entrepreneurship. Some of you have, finally done things that you put off forever, and all that's fantastic. So let us hold on to that and hold on to the momentum that we have as we come out of this for a moment. We know that there could be possibility of an upswing in terms of cases and whatnot. But for right now, let us hold on to this momentum and continue to be high quality people, high quality citizens, and just high quality members of whatever faith system that you operate under. And so really, guys, that's all I wanted to talk to you about today. I'm very excited to be back on the air. Very excited to just reiterate that we can overcome, we have overcome, we will continue to overcome, we can push and persevere through all these things. Do want to mention that the devotional is out and available on Amazon. You can simply search for my name, Langley Shazer. You can find all of the available titles. Excuse me. I'm currently working on a new book. I'll give you guys the title. It's called Baby Daddy, Changing the Narrative. I'm very excited about this. This takes a hard focus at our role as men perpetuating a negative perception of fatherhood and, being absentee fathers and some different things that have been attributed to the baby daddy moniker. So, I'm really challenging men to become better fathers and become better role models and become, just better men. I mean, we've talked about that before. That's why the order exists. That's why the workbooks that we're working on exist. That's why the devotional exists. That's why this book is being written, because men, we have an opportunity to be better. One thing that we always talk about is kings raising kings. People who have information, people who have knowledge, people who have experience. It is incumbent upon you to share that so that we can all get better. And that's what this podcast is about. That's what everything that I have tried to do in my life thus far is to impart everything that I have learned and experienced upon everyone else who's willing to listen so that we can all become better people. Also, guys, I'm going to start a pastor series. What that is I'll be interviewing as many leaders of churches who are willing to come out and talk to me. And we'll be talking more about like your personal journey. We'll be talking about, what your experiences have been before coming into leadership, during leadership, what was those struggles, what were the biggest obstacles, and really want to get a glimpse into the mind and life of, the leadership of the church, because they are people too. And one of the biggest things that we've done with religion is put these people on pedestals that think that they are living lives that are above reproach, and also lives that we could never aspire to be. And you'll see that people in so many cases are struggling just like we are. They're dealing with issues just like we are. They are having to overcome situations just like we are. And the bottom line is they are human beings just like we are. So it'll be what I hope to be an enlightening series. I don't know how long it'll go. I hope to interview everyone who's willing to come out and talk to me. So with that being said, those of you who are leaders in churches, if you are willing and comfortable with coming out and just sharing some of your stories, some of your testimony with me, you can reach me at thecasualword@gmail.com. You can reach me on Facebook. I know I have a lot of you on Facebook already, so I'll be reaching out to you to set up some dates and get some schedules in to start this series up. But if I don't have you, please reach out to me. No one will be refused. I want to hear from as many different leaders in different positions, different denominations. I mean, that's what it's about, is understanding the totality of the leadership and how each leader lives and operates, and the things that we all go through. And what we'll see is there's going to be a lot of similarities no matter what faith system that you operate under and what you actually believe in. And, we're not here to demonize any particular denomination or belief system. We're here to all learn and grow and understand each other. So with that being said, guys, as always, let us change the way that we think so we can change the way that we live. Until next time, stay blessed.